What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rewind Recap Relive, where legends and rising stars meet. I'm your host, Jonah, this time bringing you another riveting episode of the show featuring the genius, leaping Lanny Poffo, alongside Nacho Clown. But before that, let's get into the winner of last week's giveaway, our next giveaway, and our next show. So first, the winner of last week's giveaway for this incredible book written by the genius Lanny Poffo himself, Wrestling with Rhyme, and signed by him as well, is Lyric Valdez. Congratulations, and we will be in touch. Now, for the giveaway happening next week, you have the chance to win that awesome shirt signed by the one and only Hornswoggle himself, and I'm sure you've put two and two together. That means next week on the show we are having Hornswoggle alongside a rising star in the independent scene, NPK. Now you have the chance to win the shirt, and what you gotta do is comment hashtag R3giveaway down below in this video. That's hashtag R3giveaway down below in the full Lanny Poffo and Nacho Clown interview, and you will be entered to win. Now that the business is all taken care of, all that's left for you guys to do is please subscribe to the channel. We have tons more engaging content, as I always say, on the way. A lot of new guests, a lot of new faces, tons more giveaways, so stay tuned for that. Hit that notification bell so you know when we release a video. Smash the like button, but most of all, please enjoy the show. First guest comes to us not from the circus ring, but the wrestling ring. He's been wrestling for 4 years now on the independent circuit, and he is Chicago's favorite clown, Nacho Clown.
Hey.
Our next guest is a motivational speaker, a poet, and of course, WWE legend, the genius Lanny Poffo. And I'm so happy to have you both here on the show. And my first question I'd like to direct to Lanny. So your father, obviously, Angelo Poffo, was very involved in the wrestling industry. So I'm assuming you grew up surrounded by it. How did that influence you in becoming a wrestler yourself?
Well, I didn't want to become a welfare recipient, but it turned out I did that anyway in the WCW. Mm-hmm. Okay. But anyway, that's a joke, but it's true. Yeah. Anyway, I was from second grade to senior in high school. I was in Downers Grove, Illinois, DuPage County. My mother was from Naperville. My father died in 2010. And my mother died in 2017. And she was 90. My dad was almost 85. And then, unfortunately, my brother passed away 1 year after my dad died. And I had to take care of my mom for 6 years because she completely collapsed. And you know how Jewish mothers are. You know, it's like the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to take care of her for 6 years, and it wasn't easy. And I finally said, hey, do you want to live or do you want to die? She says, I want to live. I said, then notify your face because you're going to have to be happy and smile. And she says, I can't. I said, just pretend then.
Yeah.
You know, so I got her a little bit every day to try to cheer her up.
And then, so how did Angelo Poffo, your father, influence you when you were becoming a wrestler yourself? What led to that when you first broke into the business?
I knew I wasn't going to make it in baseball, and I showed no talent for anything that you could that would earn a paycheck. So I just bugged him until he taught me how to wrestle. But then he also said, yeah, I taught you how to wrestle, but the learning continues. Don't learn from me, learn from everybody. And when you stop learning, you deserve to be out of the business because nobody ever knows enough.
Yeah.
So don't learn from just me, learn from everybody.
Right. And who did you, throughout your career now, once you broke it in, who would you say led to the evolution of what you became?
Many people, but luckily I was befriended by Thunderbolt Patterson when I was 19 years old in Atlanta. And, you know, we rode together and he gave me a lot of good advice. Of course, I was only able to absorb some of it, you know, but the thing is, I'm still better off because I was with him. And then Jody Hamilton was there, Tom Ernesto. They all had advice for me. And, you know, if you close your mouth and open your ears, you know, you got a good chance to learn more.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my brother always dissected the minutia of wrestling, and he always had something to tell me. And he could keep talking after he made his point. So I was able to absorb it.
So obviously leaping Lanny Poffo, and then you transitioned to the Genius in the early 90s. It was a very successful change. And how did the crowd respond to that at first, to the Genius, Lanny Poffo?
Well, it was 1989, and I had been in the WWE for over 5 years, and it was getting to be a tired routine. You know, there's a shelf life, a sell-by date for a wrestler, right?
Right.
And then, so they were going to give me the, it's called the, what do they call that? The good luck on your future endeavors.
Yeah.
So they said, look, you know, you're such a good employee. You're never late. You never flunk a drug test. You know, we could always count on you. You always do your best. He says, but unfortunately, we have too many baby faces. We need heels. So I said, well, why don't you make me a heel? So Jay Strongbow says, well, you can't be a heel. You're too good looking. And I said, you were the ugliest man I've ever met. And you were a baby face for 35 years. So, and everybody laughed, but I wasn't kidding. So we were in Boston, and I said, I can prove I can be a heel. So I get the microphone and I said, my name is Lanny Poffo. I always know what's up. The Bruins haven't got a chance to win the Stanley Cup. The Red Sox haven't won in years. I hope they never do. The Celtics are a travesty. The Patriots are too. And a fan jumps in the ring, and never give a sucker an even break. I caught him through the ropes. And I start my third verse, and this time another fan jumps in, and this time Boston's finest jump in the ring, and they canceled the match because it was a mini riot. So I came back, and they said, well, it looks like you're not as good looking as we thought. Have you thought of a gimmick? I said, how about Boy Genius? And, you know, the kid in the class said, oh, Mr. Carter.
Yeah.
And so Vince says, well, just do the Genius Lanny Poffo, do 6 vignettes, then we'll drop the name Lanny Poffo, that will be the transition. And I said, nothing doing, Vince. It's my way or the highway. No, I didn't say that. You know I was lying.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I said, yes, sir, Mr. McMahon, sir.
Absolutely.
I kissed the tookus.
Yeah, as all the greats have, right? Well, that's fantastic. And Notch, can I hand it over to you now? Can you tell us about your relationship to the sport as you were growing up, and what drew you to the ring?
Yeah, you know, growing up in Florida, you know, it's always been a hot spot for wrestling, both for, you know, wrestlers and fans alike. And I grew up in a family of brothers, so, you know, it was always on TV in the 90s, just about everywhere you looked. So we would always be out there on the trampoline or something else doing it. And, you know, we always did martial arts and wrestling in school. So it's just kind of a natural fit, you know, we stayed with it, you know, and got going with the clown gimmick and doing some clowning in real life. And been a real good time juggling, making some balloon animals, flipping some keister.
And so how did the clown character manifest though? Like what led to that? Were that your first match? Were you Nacho Clown?
Yeah. It's been Nacho Clown from the get-go. You know, I'm a real life clown as well. Nacho Clown throughout the Midwest, you know, Chicagoland, Indiana, Wisconsin, you know, doing real clowning throughout the week and then wrestling whenever matches come that way. And it's been a real good time. You know, sometimes doing both duties at a show. It's real fun.
And so did any specific wrestlers influence this character in any way?
I mean, you know, I you know, Doink the Clown is obvious, the first one to come to mind, but I think you see a lot of clowns. You know, I can't say that I'm the first clown. You know, the Midwest not only has a rich wrestling history, but it has a rich history of clowns as well. And even right now in the local, you know, Midwest region, Yabo the Clown has done a lot of stuff. There's Frank the Clown, as a lot of folks know. You know, there's a few other clowns around, but none of them get down like the Nacho Clown because they're all heels, baby. They all go out there and jeer. And it's a little harder to get them to cheer, but people like the Notch, and it's a real fun time. I like them, and man, it's just always been a blast.
Yeah, you definitely get the crowd involved. Is it Is it hard to do that? Did you ever find it hard to get Nacho Clown over to the people, or did that just come naturally?
No, it's just, you go out there to have fun. You go out there to put on a fight. You go out there to have a good time. And it's always just been, as soon as that curtain opens up, it's just easy sailing. It's a good time.
Right. So Lanny, so you're a motivational speaker, I've heard, right? And so how did that come to be, and what kind of experiences do you draw on when you are a motivational speaker, when you're speaking to
so it was all word of mouth. The thing is, it all happened. By the way, can I talk to the clown? Okay.
Absolutely. Feel free, both
How
of
you doing, sir?
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the situation. Where in Florida were you raised?
I was raised in Polk City, Florida, right on that I-4 corridor in between Tampa and Orlando. They tried to call us Orlampa for a minute. We didn't put up with that.
Well, here I am spending my old age in Clearwater, and I grew up in DuPage County. So isn't that ridiculous now? I grew up.
Yeah, but I think you had the better line of thinking there, man. You're in the better weather most of the year, so.
Yes, you're freezing your clown ass off.
Yeah.
By the way, there was a wrestler named Frank Hickey, and I wrestled him when I was like 18, and I was afraid to touch him because he was 100 years old, and he had a gimmick called the Spaceman, and he had Bozo Brown, which was sort of a clown.
Yeah.
If you remember that name?
I don't think I've heard that name. No.
Okay, Frank Hickey. Write it down. Look it up.
I've got a pen
and
from
also
that earlier suggestion.
Also Billy Gills, the little fox from Fox Like That. I think it's Goelz, I think. But anyway, these people are long dead. But I remember them. And then I remember wrestling Frank Hickey, and I made myself a promise that whenever it got really embarrassing and I was too old, I would never wrestle again. And here I am, 65, and if the price is right, I'll be there tonight. So I guess that makes me a big whore.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, and when the Genius character had done its turn, and they were done getting ready, my shelf life was up.
Right.
I was in Miami wrestling, and this guy came up to me and said, would you, he said, I don't want to insult you, but would you take $2,000 to introduce Ted Williams and write a poem for him?
Right.
And I said, $2,000? Okay, but if it's any more, I won't pay you. So they paid me $2,000.
Yeah.
And I went through all of the magnificence that is Jorabi Stadium, the Marlins and the Dolphins' happy home. It gives me pride to introduce a man who was to baseball what Romulus and Remus were to Rome. Take 95 until you hit the Massachusetts Turnpike. Get off at Fenway Park, and there you are. Or back in 1941, this man hit 406. And even now, Ted Williams has no par. America anticipated every turn at bat to watch him knock the ball to smithereens. 521 home runs are even more incredible because he gave 5 years to the Marines. The boys who wrote the sports page never did him any favors, but for Cooperstown, they had to tell the truth that Theodore Samuel Williams brought a splendor to the game, reminiscent of the late George Herman Ruth. And he starts crying, and he gives me a hug, and he says, if I'd have had you for a press agent, I'd have never had any problems. Well, what happened was, thanks to a thing called word of mouth,
right.
Then I got another speaking engagement, and another from word of mouth. See, and I have a tuxedo. I'm not wearing it today, but
it's a shame we could have matched. But...
Yeah, I got one from when I'm a little chunky and one from when I'm thin, depending. I kind of fluctuate.
Yeah, right.
So the thing is, I have my tux. I'm ready to speak at any. But what I do is I ask them, what's it about? And, so I can write a poem. Mm-hmm. Otherwise I'm just a speaker.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the dais is filled with 18 people, I make sure that I'm brief, and if it's just me, the keynote, then I can go a little longer.
Right.
But it all started out from, and I'm too old to wrestle, but 65 is just the right age to wear a tuxedo and talk.
Of course, yeah. No, that's fantastic. So that all just transpired from word of mouth. That's really good. And I know that you wrote an anti-smoking book of limericks, right? Could I just ask? And it's what is it? It's limericks from the heart and lungs, right? So what led you to be so, anti-smoking? What led to that? Because I've heard from other people that you're against it too.
Rest, I'm against it. Yes. Well, I am a divorced man, a one-time loser, married 12 years, and born again bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter is 36, and she has given me a beautiful gift: a 3-year-old grandson and a 7-month-old grandson, who I was just on Facebook with just now.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And I wanted my daughter to grow up to be a non-smoker because I read an article that if you start smoking early, you run the risk of having the nightmares of youth, which include, number one, bad grades, number two, dropping out of school, number three, drugs/alcohol, number four, teenage pregnancy, number five, teenage suicide. Okay. For some reason, if you can say no to tobacco, you have a very good chance statistically of not being, victim of those other nightmares of youth.
Right.
So, and then the school that my daughter was going to, Nona Elementary School.
Yes.
They asked me to spearhead the smoke-free class of 2000. And so that's when I started writing a few limericks, okay?
Yes.
But some are some are for children, and then they go up to medium. And here's some of the adult ones. When Sheila earned her PhD with her boyfriend of equal degree, dissertations got tough, so they smoked off the cuff. How stupid can smart people be? A real estate mogul named Dave let cigarettes make him a slave. Location, and smoke inhalation has led to his premature grave. When Columbus arrived on our shore, he discovered tobacco galore. The peace pipe was passed, although peace didn't last. That pipe killed more people than war. Now, both books, Wrestling with Rhyme and Limericks from the Heart and Lungs,
yes,
are available in ebook, wherever ebooks are sold. So
yeah,
and that's
electronically, I believe. Yeah,
that's very cheap, and because everything else is all sold out. And Jonah, thank you for asking. That was very nice of you to give me a nice plug there.
Of course, yeah, always, Lanny. So
you're a mensch. You're a mensch.
We could use certain terminology. I don't know. I mean, Nacho, very off the cuff question: are you Jewish by any chance?
So the Notch is not Jewish, no, but the Notch does like a good matzo ball soup.
Yeah. Oh, well, good.
I was raised Catholic, but I am Jewish by birth. My mother's side, which means I'm Jewish.
Right.
Because the reason they always go with the mother is they're always sure of the mother.
Notch, can you please tell me how your career's evolved over the last 4 years, from when you first brought Notch from inception to now? What have you learned along the way?
I've learned I've mostly learned to have fun, to have a good time, to go out there, to really put on a good fight and to move around a little bit and have a good time with everybody. I've had really good coaches from day one with Steve Boz, Superstar Boz, Frankie DeFalco, and then Phil Christie's been a great mentor as well. And there's just such a great infrastructure. There's such a great program, and there's just so much that the older generations have done for us in that Chicagoland and just the Midwest community in general. There's just so much infrastructure there for us to kind of, to develop. So there's been nonstop things to learn from just about everybody around.
Absolutely. And Lanny, throughout your illustrious career now, what are some things you picked up? What do you think about what Notch just said? Do you think have fun is definitely something you've learned along the way, or you go in a different direction?
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of a girl named Marie Kondo?
No.
I have not. No.
She's a Japanese girl. Look it up. And she's all over YouTube and all over Netflix. I know this guy writes down everything. Writes down Billy Gills, Frank Hickey.
I do what I'm told, you know.
Yes. Yeah, you respect your elders.
Condo with the C. Condo with the C.
I think so. Yeah. She's Japanese. She
Okay.
and she says go around your house and throw away everything that doesn't spark joy. Now I was lucky enough to be riding around. Actually, my brother and I, Macho Man, maybe you heard of him.
I think so. Yeah.
We were at the wrestling matches and we saw the fabulous Kangaroos, Al Costello, Roy Hefferman, and their manager, Wild Red Berry.
Mm-hmm.
And they were from Australia and they had an actual boomerang that they bring to the ring, but it was wooden and they couldn't throw that to the audience because you'd kill somebody.
Yeah.
But they had these cardboard boomerangs made with pictures of Hefferman and Costello and just information about the Kangaroos, and they would throw those to the audience. Well, Randy and I would compete for them. I never got one. One time I got one and Randy knocked it out of my hand and took it. But that's the way it is when you have an older Macho Man. So anyway, so when they made me the poet laureate of the WWE,
right?
I got some scrolls, put some poems on them, rolled them up, and tried to throw them to the audience to spark the joy that I remember from the Kangaroos. You know, about having fun and giving the fans some fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's exactly, you know, what Nacho was saying. Okay, in my own way, I was trying to spark joy and have fun and cause fun, because if the people don't have fun, they may not even be back. Why would you pay money to see something that isn't fun? So, and everybody comes to wrestling for different reasons, and that's one of them. So, unfortunately, the scroll didn't make it past the barricade very far. So I said, there's got to be a way I can throw something more aerodynamic. I can't throw boomerangs because I'm not Australian. It's, you know, so I said, I got it. Frisbees. So I put a generic poem on the Frisbee, had 500 printed at great expense. And then right when I was down to my last 100, the marketing director of WWF, WWE, he comes up to me and says, would you mind if we marketed these? Would I mind? I insist, you know? And then,
yeah, absolutely.
And then win, lose, or draw, as a babyface, I would go to the venues and sign all the Frisbees until they were gone. They sold them for $3 a piece. I made a nickel a Frisbee, but I wasn't interested in the nickel. I was just trying to prove that I was marketable.
Yeah.
And
an asset. Absolutely.
I wanted to be an asset, you know, and believe it or not, it worked. You know, I got 8-year career out of it, and a lot of people didn't get 1 year.
Yeah. You definitely found something that worked, and you ran with it. And can you tell us?
Of course, you know, having my brother as the Macho Man didn't hurt.
No, of course not. But I think it was the Frisbees more, if I had to pick either one or the other.
I would pick my brother.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Can you tell us how it felt to induct your brother, Macho Man, into the Hall of Fame? How did that feel for you? I'm sure it was very emotional.
Well, it was double-edged sword. I'll tell you why.
Okay. Because
1 year before my father died, they announced that they're going to put Kerry Von Erich, Fritz Von Erich, Michael, Chris, David, all the Von Erichs into the Hall of Fame. And Randy, and we were celebrating my father's birthday, and it was going to be his final birthday. He lived 11 months more.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wasn't, he had his dementia, you know, it was toast.
Yeah.
So Randy says, how do you like that? I'm not going to imitate his voice because then it'll ruin my singing for a month. Okay. He says, how do you like that? They put in all the Von Erichs. He says, I could see Fritz, Kerry, Kevin, David, but that's all. Not Michael and Chris, for Christ's sake. Lanny, you suck, and you're better than Chris, you know? So anyway, Randy says, if anything happens to me, you make sure that the Poffos go in together. Randy, Lanny, and Angelo. Okay? The Poffo family.
Right.
If the Fineras can get in, the Poffos can get in.
Yeah.
And then, believe it or not, my father heard that and understood it. Okay, so sure enough, right after Randy died, John Laurinaitis gives me a call and asked me if I would induct my brother posthumously into the Hall of Fame. And I said, well, Randy's wishes were that we go in Poffo family, Angelo, Randy, and Lanny, or not at all.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, I'll get back to you. And he never did. So that didn't get over. And
yeah.
But this was posthumous. This was like WrestleMania 2012 in Miami. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I had a little epiphany. I turned 59. That's the only thing I accomplished in my life that Randy never did. Randy died at 58 and a half, and here I am 59. And, you know, I was having trouble wrapping my head around the fact that I was now the older brother. So I was thinking about, I'm not a Trekkie and I'm not a nut about Star Trek, but I do enjoy it. And I mean, I don't go to Comic-Cons dressed up, but I remember the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
Yes.
And it hit me. You know what? Bruno Sammartino got in the Hall of Fame, and all his fans are dead, so they couldn't enjoy it. And this is just new people that are enjoying it.
Right.
I said, so I told my mom, I said, I got some news for you. I am now the older brother, and I'm going to put Randy in the Hall of Fame by himself. She said, you can't do that. His wishes, his wishes, his wishes. I said, well, you know something? Because he was the older brother, I never got my wishes. Many times I got passed over because of his wishes. Now I'm going to make all the unpopular decisions. And the Macho fan is more important than the Macho Man. Because there's only one Macho Man, but there's millions and millions of Macho fans, and you are punishing them. And so I stood up to her, and she was angry. But then, sure enough, Mark Carano gives me a call and wants to know if I'll come to New Orleans WrestleMania so I could do a few interviews for the WWE Network. And I said, fine, but I have reconsidered, and I want to put Randy into the Hall of Fame by himself. Oh my God, I'll call you back. So about 30 minutes goes by. He calls me back, and he says, we only have one posthumous inductee into the Hall of Fame, and this year it's going to be Paul Bearer. He says, but if you can kayfabe, which means don't talk.
Yes.
Shut up. Don't tell anybody. Then the next year in San Jose, California, you will induct your brother into the Hall of Fame. And
so for a year, you had to keep your mouth shut then about that, right?
Well, I told my mommy, but she didn't have a Twitter account. So that's basically a dead-end street. So then I gave the speech, and I put it on the geniuslannypoffo.com website.
Okay.
So everybody that goes into my website will see my speech to my brother, because I wanted to show that he wasn't just a great man, he was a good man too. Yeah. And that's what I want people to remember about my brother.
And we definitely all do. There were, I mean, as you said, there's millions of Macho Man fans, and I think there always will be. His legacy is definitely a long-lasting one. And why do you think Miss Elizabeth, if you have an opinion on this, because you were very close, is not in the Hall of Fame? Do you think she should be?
I think she should be, and I think she will be.
Right. Just give it time.
Well, I mean, you can't make them operate at a snail's pace or speed it up any further than they're going to. Yeah. Remember, it's not our Hall of Fame, it's Vince's.
Yeah. Of course. And so, Nacho, I want to throw it over to you. We talked a little bit, right, about the Chicago wrestling scene, and you're very passionate about it. Can you speak a little bit about your promotion in particular, and then also the scene of wrestling in Chicago right now?
Yeah, like I said earlier, there's a wonderful infrastructure. I know for the longest time, prior to my entry in it, Windy City Wrestling was doing a lot for the whole area. My coach Steve Boz came from that school, and when I was first brought in by a buddy of mine who thought I'd be a pretty good fit for it, thought I'd be a pretty good build. He's brought me in to meet Steve Boz and see the Chicago style wrestling at the time they were hosting in Edison Park. And I was so impressed. I'd only been to a few live events when I was younger. You know, I remember it was a house show in Lakeland, Florida. Was my only like real big time show. Even got to reach out and touch Jeff Hardy, and that was just the world to me.
That's awesome.
And so when I got to see a live show up here, I was just like, oh man, this is it. It was just you always enjoy it on TV, but it was such an experience. And everybody knows that Chicago crowd's a different kind of crowd, so it was a really good time. And Steve Boz trained me the right way. You know, I went and got some one-on-one time with him for a long time. I still train with him often. And started training with Frankie DeFalco, who runs Bruce City Wrestling up in Wisconsin. Between them two and Yakuza, who runs the Lucha Libre program here in Chicago, the three of them are running pretty consistently. And then there's a lot of the smaller promotions and a lot of bigger ones too that come through town. There's so much Chicagoland. You know, this time of year, last year, prior to the Hubbub, prior to all this, you know, this time of year, you could go 20 miles in any direction, 20 miles north, south, east, west. You could find 3 or 4 shows with a few hundred people in it. So it's a great time. The fans really make it. You know, they come out, they support it. And so I've just been amazed at how dense that local and regional market is.
Absolutely.
My first match was in Aurora, Illinois, and then Racine, Wisconsin. So I love independent wrestling. Otherwise, guys like us would have never got a start.
No, yeah, and they're just the fans here are so great about it. And yeah, Aurora is great. The Roundhouse out there is a real fun time, and yeah.
So both of you now for your personas you portrayed, Lanny the Genius and of course Nacho Clown. How did you develop those? Because both of your personas require a considerable amount of skills, acting skills. How do you develop those? Like, how did you, Lanny, you first, how did you develop the skills to be the genius, all these limericks and poems that you came up with? I mean, you could name them right off the top of your head. How'd you come up with those?
Well, do you remember, you're a pretty young guy, but you might be good at history. There was a TV show on USA Network called TNT, Tuesday Night Titans. Do you remember?
I have heard that. I've heard of that show, yes.
Well, as a babyface Leaping Lanny, they were going to bring me on there. I had just come into the WWF, and I was there about a month, and all of a sudden, I'm supposed to be in Baltimore, and earlier, I'm going to do an episode of Tuesday Night Titans. And I realized that I was probably, if I'm boring, never going to be invited back.
Yeah.
So I wrote a poem for the occasion, and I dressed in a suit of armor. And I said, look back through the annals of history and the Wrestling Hall of Fame, men from all nations with courage to spare, who struggled to carve out a name. I'll compare these high standards of valor to those chivalrous knights of yore, with bravery staunch as their armor, their glory both legend and lore. My medieval connection with wrestling relives that magnificent past, though mindless skeptics may snicker and scoff. The winner is he who laughs last. Alive with the love of wrestling, I appear on TNT between Vince and Awful Alfred, the hottest show on TV. I'm not your average wrestler, but I wouldn't want to be. I never scream or kiss my arms. I'm happy just being me. I call myself Leaping Lanny. I validate what I say to every single wrestling fan who's watching USA. Yes, I believe in miracles. As God has blessed this great land, I believe the referee will soon be raising my hand. So everybody goes crazy and they applaud and everything. Then we go to commercial black, and Vince says, Lanny, that was great. From now on, you do a poem before every match. So I tried to be blasé about it. And I said, yeah, I'll do my best. Yeah. But inside the 12-year-old boy that never grew up, yes, I've got a gimmick. I've got a gimmick. So I love having a gimmick. You know, without a gimmick, you really suck. I'm sure Nacho admits that too.
Nacho, do you have any thoughts on that? How did you? I know you said you were a real life clown, but how did you hone in on these skills for wrestling?
Sure. I think it's a lot of what Lenny said. He took something from his life. He was going out there being himself. And I think you hear a lot of the greats, a lot of the older wrestlers talk about just going out there and being yourself and cranking it up to 11. And, that's what I like to do. I'm already, like you said, professional clown here in the Midwest. So it's just taking those skills out there and making the best of both worlds.
Nacho, have you ever heard of Emmett Kelly?
Emmett Kelly? No.
Write it down
and look it up.
I'm going to have a phone book before we're done.
I like Nacho is a good student. He's really ambitious. He's gonna. Emmett Kelly was the greatest clown that ever lived, and
was that their performing name, Emmett Kelly, or was that their character name?
I honestly don't know, but I want you to look them up and check them out.
I can find it.
Yeah,
Google
and if you learn
Google's amazing.
If you learn one thing a day, at the end of the year you're going to be 365 things ahead.
I just hope one doesn't fall out. It goes in one way.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
There's only so much room in this.
Nacho, can you speak a little bit about some defining moments of your career so far? In 4 years, have you won championship gold as Nacho?
Yeah, I have. And I think for me, as important as those belts are, because they show so much. They show what you've done with that company and the belief that they have in you as fans and as the rest of the company. It's wonderful, both with that Brew City, Global Pro Wrestling, Chicago style wrestling. But for me, I guess the biggest defining moments have really been the matches that I've gotten to have with certain wrestlers. Like I said, there's such a great infrastructure in Chicago, and there's such a kind of a fraternal structure to it that there's a lot of guys that I looked up to just locally that put on really great matches. Somebody like Marche Rocket, Nick Brubaker, like you brought up, Jack Moody. I was just, it was always just me looking forward to getting to wrestle some of those fellas and getting those matches and just knowing what I could go out there and do with them and then getting to do it and hearing that reaction out of it. It's just such a good time. It's such a wonderful feeling to be in front of that Chicago crowd, in front of the Milwaukee crowd and everybody around. So I think it's really been those moments in the matches. That's what we live for, and I think a lot of us perform for are those moments there. A lot of build up to a little bit.
Absolutely. Your passion, I love it. I love your passion. And Lanny, getting back to your brother fast, can you speak a little bit about the way he departed the WWF and what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, the way my brother departed the WWF, he was famous for having the world's greatest match against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yes.
But my brother was a perfectionist all the way. And it kind of ruined his life because no matter who he wrestled after that, he could never surpass or even come close to tying his match with Steamboat. And the reason was 50% of the reason that match was so great was because of the talent of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And that is an opponent that is made in heaven. You're just not going to get that. And even his great matches with Ted DiBiase and Jake the Snake Roberts, it was like two villains. And there's nothing better than a classical match between one babyface and one heel, one good guy, one bad guy. And the athleticism that they showed. So he was doing the announcing, okay, after Elizabeth had left him and he was getting a divorce. And so he retired to the announcing table. And then he started to notice that Shawn Michaels was becoming like the best worker that he had ever seen. And he thought that if given a chance, perhaps he could have a match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania and have the greatest match, better than Steamboat, or even arguably, since you can't prove that because it's a matter of opinion.
Right.
Okay. So he calls me up and he says he's got a presentation. He wanted to work, he wanted me to find some a bottle of glass, a wine bottle that break away. What if I hit you on the head, it'll break instead of kill you.
Yeah.
And I actually found it in Van Nuys, California. Okay, on the Google. I looked on the Google.
Right.
And they do have that, you know, for people that want to break glass over your head.
Movie props, right? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, his idea was to go to WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels versus Macho Man. If Randy loses, he retires to the microphone. If Shawn Michaels loses, he gets his head shaved in the middle of the ring. So this was an unselfish thing that at the end of the match, it would be Shawn Michaels that he would pass the baton to.
Yeah.
Very unlike Bret Hart and the Montreal Screwjob, who wanted to leave the territory with the belt, which is not done. Okay? It's because you didn't win the belt, they gave it to you, and you give it back when you're done. You know, so somebody else can try to draw a crowd.
Exactly.
So Pat Patterson says, well, that's great, Randy, but we're having a youth movement, and the best thing you can do is stay on the microphone.
Wow.
And Randy says, well, I didn't realize I was elderly, but I think I'll get a second opinion. So he calls up the WCW and Eric Bischoff and gets himself a nice lucrative deal. And then he did something even better. He took something with him.
You?
Eventually, yes. But what did he take with him?
The Slim Jim account.
Yes, you win. $750,000 a year.
Yes.
From Vince's pocket to Ted Turner's. And then it was easy after that to take his lesser talented brother and put him on the payroll. And by the way, I'm not proud of it, but I took steroids in 1989 to swell up enough to wrestle Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't legal back in the year 1995. I guess this happened, 95, 96, I can't remember. Yeah. But since the steroids was illegal, I was taking human growth hormone and bleaching my hair.
Right.
And getting ready for the Gorgeous George gimmick. But what happened was my hair started falling out in clumps, and it looked so bad. Instead of looking like Gorgeous George, I looked like the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. So anyway, instead of beating up Pat Patterson and Jay Strongbow on the same day,
right,
he just used his head and used his telephone, let his fingers do the walking, and that's what he did.
It's fantastic. So he really he was in it for himself, you, and do you think he made the right move? What's your opinion on that?
It worked out good for me. Yeah, everything Randy did. In fact, Randy was determined to be loyal to Vince McMahon. It was only when they called him an old man and insulted him that he decided to make the move.
Yeah.
And of course, they were just printing money. They were using OPM, other people's money. And and I got a chance to wet my beak just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say I didn't spend any of it. And that's why I do nothing but accrue interest now.
Smart man, really the genius. So, Nacho, could I ask, where do you see your career heading? What would your ideal path be?
I'm always going to be part of the Chicago scene. You know, loyalty is a two-way street, you know, as we just heard with an example of Macho Man and Vince. And, Chicago's been real loyal to Nacho, so I'm going to give that right back no matter, where I end up down the road and where it takes me. I'd like to wrestle until old age. I think I've got a great style for it. I think I've been trained really safely. I think even some of the tumbling is done the right way, where I think I can be wrestling into old age. So I love the character Nacho Clown. It's become who I am in a lot of ways. So I'm going to keep it around for a long time. I would love to get out and wrestle, just have some of the best matches I can in front of as many people as I can. for Nacho, it's really about getting out there in front of the crowd, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. It's just in the middle of that ring in front of everybody. It's what I visualize. It's what I see. So I think it's where I'm going to be, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And do you keep up on the current product at all, being WWE and AEW?
I'm always trying to watch a good match, and whether it's current or in the past, the WWE Network has such a library of amazing stuff. So I'm always looking around. I have my favorites from the 90s and 80s that I love to watch, but the modern product, man, Otis is just outstanding, and I'm sure you're not going to find anybody else, who's seen Otis wrestle a little bit. He's got such a legitimate background, and he's such a fun guy to watch. He's so believable, yet has a great time. So I'm really, really liking what they've been doing with him. And, I've been liking to see how they've been adjusting the product. I feel like they had such a unique opportunity the last few months to adjust what they're offering and, resetting what the crowd expects. So it was really interesting to see what they did with that opportunity, both in the AEW and the WWE, and even a lot of the indie companies. NWA Power is an interesting format to watch. And, local companies, regional companies, there hasn't been too much the last few months. But, there's always something good to watch.
And do you see Nacho Clown fitting into either company? But from watching the product, do you see Nacho Clown being a good fit?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the WWE product, and when you want to look for like the absolute best workers in the world consistently throughout time, you're going to find them there. You're going to find them in other places too, of course. New Japan has amazing workers, AEW has amazing workers, NWA, Impact, ROH, and then not to mention all the lucha companies and European companies. There's so much talent, but the E is just such a great centralized place to find that great talent, to find the great training facilities, the storylines. And I think that's what draws me to the E so much, is the longer story arcs, because that's the biggest fun. That's the most fun I have, is going out there and telling a story, especially if I'm lucky enough to have a long-term few months to do it. If I have a few months with that same crowd to do it, it's just such a blast. And I don't know that you get that opportunity elsewhere. I think the higher you go, the more opportunity you get to present the story and tell the crowd what you're thinking. So I love AEW as well, though, what they've been doing over there. The Rhodes family, traditionally, Goldust was my favorite wrestler, still is to this day. So to see what the Rhodes family is doing at AEW, my brother's a Jaguars fan, unfortunately. So we've got a little bit of, family vested interest in what they're doing.
Yeah.
The Khan family with that. And, just Chris Jericho is just such an amazing worker, and he's such a great person to watch adapt over the years. So, man, there's just so much talent in the world of wrestling. I'm never disappointed. There's always somewhere to look, whether it's, I mentioned a lot of guy wrestlers. There's also a lot of amazing up-and-coming female talent that's really neat to see, what they're able to do. They're creative, and there's just so much out there. I know some people complain about the current product, but you gotta know where to look, and there's always something good out there.
Right, there definitely is. Lanny, do you keep up on the current product?
No, I'm sorry, I don't, but I never criticize the current product, because when I was in my heyday, the old timers were knocking us.
Yeah.
And like, what's wrestling coming to and everything. Well, the thing is, I don't want to be the guy that urinates in the soup. Maybe I've had enough, and I want to make sure you can't have any.
Yeah.
So I think that, for example, some people knock the Young Bucks, okay? And I think they're fantastic. So the people that knock them, I don't have to name names, but they think they're spot monkeys and this and that. Well, it isn't easy to be a spot monkey. It's better. How about in my day, when an overweight heel would dig deep into his pants and pull out a foreign object and gouge your eyes, and you're expected to go, "Oh my God, my eyes! Where's my detached retina?" And then they hide it from the referee. And that's, to me, that's not wrestling. That's not even athletic. That's a shortcut. I'm interested in athleticism, and you know what? There's more than one way to skin a cat, and if you can get over, I'm not against it. Mm-hmm. If I could put an eyeball in the middle of my head and call myself the Cyclops, I would do it.
Lanny, I also want to know, you obviously can just name them off the top of your head real quick. What would be from the genius, what is the favorite limerick or the favorite poem? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you could just pick, I know there's been so many, but what would you say?
There's only one man smart enough to put Hulk Hogan down. The genius has a devastating plan. You're looking at the future World Wrestling Federation, who appeals to the modern thinking fan. When I emerge victorious with gold around my waist, I shall be the most splendiferous of all. Don't tell me Hulk is 6'8" and I'm just 6'2". Between the ears, I'm over 10 feet tall. He wants to wrap his 24-inch pythons around my neck and give his famous, "What you gonna do?" By the power of the genius and the world's smartest man, rely on my incredible IQ.
That is a great one. Definitely memorable. I could see how that could come to your mind right away. And is it true you were in a movie, a horror movie?
I was in a horror movie, and I'll tell you what, it was so good. They played it on an airplane, and people were actually walking out at 30,000 feet. How's that?
Yeah, no, I know. It's so funny. I also saw a video of the locker room fight that you had with Hannibal the Animal a few years back, and a lot of people really thought that was a shoot fight between you and Hannibal. Can you speak a little bit about that? Was it? What was the deal with that?
Well, Hannibal has just come out on his show saying that after 10 years, saying that it was a work.
Right.
Okay, that it was pre-planned and everything. I would like to say that, yes, I knew it was going to happen. He told me not to tell anybody, but I told my web guy at the time, Jeff Dougherty, and a very dear friend of mine, so he wouldn't get upset. Mm-hmm. And I also told Honky Tonk Man because I didn't want to not tell him out of respect.
Yeah.
And but when he got me down on my back, he put my arm like this,
right?
And then I couldn't breathe, and I tried to get out, and I couldn't get out because he had all his weight on my sternum, and he's a shoot fighter and he knows how. Mm-hmm. And I tried to get out, and I could not. So I decided to just relax my body so I wouldn't have an oxygen debt. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just relaxed my body and hoped that he would let go before he killed me. Now, the situation is, it's got nothing to do with the shoot fight. You know, it's got nothing to do with anything. But I will never, ever work with him again, yeah. And I will never speak to him anymore. And the reason is, I was at the gym, and I work out every day, even though you can't tell. Okay, and somebody said, "Hey, you're on YouTube, and you're in the shower naked." So I said, "Well, send me the link." So I go on the link, and sure enough, they videotaped me in the shower at his show, and they put it on YouTube without my permission. And
oh wow!
Now I only showed the tuchus, not the schmeckel. Okay, so
always looking out, yeah.
What's that?
You're always looking out for cameras just in case, you know where they are.
Well, I never even thought about having cameras.
Of course, yeah.
And so what I did, and then this guy Jeremy Prophet, and we were on Facebook friends. I sent a letter to an instant message to Jeremy Prophet. I am unfriending you because you were you were introducing this, having fun at my expense.
Yeah.
And then I sent one to Hannibal, and I said, "I'm unfriending you, and take it down." And the thing is, I would have litigated him, but he took it right down. But the thing is, the damage is done.
Yeah.
Now, not that my butt isn't all it's cracked up to be, but the thing is, if I want to do nude work, I'll sign a contract and get paid.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, he did it against my knowledge.
No freebies. Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. So I demand an apology from both men.
Yeah.
And if they apologize, I'll accept it. And if not, I won't. But in the meantime, they are unfriended for life. I'm just glad I didn't turn around. And, the thing is, I don't know. What's that?
Said you didn't want to knock the camera out.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a certain reputation, but I've never been able to live up to it.
What was that? Yeah. So Nacho, have you had any mishaps in the ring so far? Any tricks that you've tried to do that haven't gone your way? Because I know that you do a lot of those, right, in your matches, a lot of tricks.
Not yet. Mostly, I'm sure things have slipped up, or I'm sure things haven't gone, like they were intended to, but, I've been lucky enough to have really always think on the fly. So it's always just kind of kept going with what felt natural. So,
yeah.
Luckily everybody's, and most importantly, everybody's always stayed safe, and, so that's always the goal. So as long as, everybody's leaving all right, the fans are still happy, I'm happy, So, thank goodness, nothing too crazy. One time, okay, I got one for you. You'll enjoy
all right,
it.
let's hear it. Yeah.
Everybody's okay. I don't like the embarrassing things where somebody gets hurt. Those videos, the fail videos.
Yeah.
I like the near miss videos where they just make it out in time. But anyways, this one big fella, Cypher. His name is Cypher. He's the biggest wrestler I've ever met. I think he's the biggest wrestler currently active in the world. He's about 6'10.5". He's wide as a barn, 390 pounds. He's huge. Oh, Cypher is huge.
Wow.
Well, he backhand chopped at me. My wig thing came off, all the way off. So we had to do some reinforcements there with it since then, and ever since then it's been real good. But that was it looked good. It looked like it was part of the cell. But
yeah,
I lose a lot of zest. The hair.
Yeah, of course. No, the hair adds to it. Absolutely. Wow, that must have got the crowd going. Lanny, I've heard that you've had your most embarrassing moment was a wardrobe malfunction.
I've had a few wardrobe malfunctions. I don't know which one you're talking about. However,
the most embarrassing one?
I don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if they, the only thing I resented was being on YouTube in the shower.
Right.
Okay. If something, if I embarrass myself or the business, I'm sorry. If somebody wants their money back, it's too late. But,
exactly.
I've had a few. Now I've got elastic.
Better choice. And so speaking of tricks, Lanny, I have to say all over the internet, I think you touched upon it earlier, your reputation. But I don't know if Nacho is familiar with it. Do you care to share your trick?
Okay. Is it okay to use less than gentlemanly language?
Yeah, I think we're all fine. Nacho, you agree?
Okay. When I played Little League baseball, I was a 9-year-old and there were 12-year-olds on the team. So one of them said, there once was a man from Nantucket. His was so long he could. He said with a grin as he wiped off his chin, if my ear were up, I would f it. So I went home and I said, well, that was easy. And what it did is two things. I got myself a good hobby and I started becoming interested in fine poetry.
Right.
So both of them, I kept on. And then, but of course, I never told anybody about this, and I kept it under my head, as they say. And then I was in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1977, and they call them arena rats. I don't, okay? A beautiful girl at the wrestling matches, she wanted me, okay? And I was an oversensitive boy with a bad complexion, and I was thrilled that she wanted me, okay? Because I thought she was gorgeous. So I made the mistake of, during the intercourse of the evening, I did my trick for her, okay? And just to show off or just to have fun, or who knows why. But my mind was racing at the time. And just to have her laugh was fun enough. So I get to Raleigh, North Carolina, and all the wrestlers know everything about me. What I did, my size, this and that, everything that I did, plus the trick I have. So one of the wrestlers, I'm not going to mention his name because he's no longer living. He said, did you suck your own for Skinny Lynn? And I said, yes. He says, well, let me see. So I did it. And he says, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm disgusted with you. I said, well,
so you showed him. Showed him?
He asked me, and I told him. Okay. I said, yeah. This. And then he says, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. But here's what happened. Several years down the road, he gets some really good publicity for himself and his family member about some drug deal with counterfeit money, and he got 2 years plea bargain with him and his son. Where, as far as I'm concerned, autofellatio is still not illegal unless you do it on the playground, and I never did it on the playground.
No.
So basically, I've got perfect record, 10 arrests, no convictions.
Lanny, so when you were, well, here, I'll ask Nacho first. Nacho, so you're obviously very involved. You've talked about it. How is the camaraderie backstage between you and your fellow wrestlers today? And I'd like to get Lanny's opinion on how it's changed over the years.
Yeah, it's very fraternal and communal in a way. And I think it's definitely just from the few years I've been there has continued to grow that way. I think from what I've heard from a lot of the older veterans, it's certainly calmed down. It sounds like it's been a lot more rambunctious in the past, a lot more active ribbing. And I know that you have a different, I think you have a different kind of dynamic in the modern locker room, especially with men and women wrestling together and often being in close quarters in the locker rooms. I think some things have toned down a good bit. But I think for the most part, I've been lucky to be part of really, really positive locker rooms. Everybody's there. They like what they do. Everybody's pretty encouraging, no matter what it is, whether it's the physical aspect of it, the working out, or whether it's, the storytelling, the characters that you're working on. I think everybody has a very good, positive attitude. Most people are very encouraging. And I think no matter where you go, there's going to be some negative talks here and there, and there's going to be some people that, rub you the wrong way. But for the most part, I personally have been very lucky to receive nothing but warm welcome and encouragement, and from coaches, from equals, and everybody around.
Yeah, that's great. That is really good to hear. And Lanny, could you give your take on how was the backstage locker room when you were a part of it?
Well, it's like the first time I got fired. I came back 6 months later with the Beverly Brothers. And Randy told me that you better be careful because there's a new trend of using people's suitcases for toilets. I said, who's doing that? And he says, who isn't doing that? So I got to tell you, I hid my suitcase so well that I couldn't find it myself. Okay, it took me a long time. But Nacho, I've got some advice for you, young man. Are you ready to take some advice from an older man?
Gotta go get my notepad back.
Okay, here's your advice. I want you to have two things in your suitcase: your Nacho gimmick and a straight man gimmick without the mask and just the regular tights and boots and whatever you have.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of that.
And take your suitcase to the next AEW or Ring of Honor or WWE, whatever, and try to get there early. Try to make yourself available that you will do pin me, pay me, do any job, whatever it takes. Okay? You would be amazed how much that has helped me and my brother. We've both done that. But never forget your suitcase. You've got to bring your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And get there early, meet people. You seem like I'm not familiar with your work, but I can tell you're a hell of a worker. I feel this. And because of the way you're talking. So if I can do one thing that's going to give you an edge, showing up is 95% of life. Be there.
Just do it.
And do your best. Do your best and forget the rest.
That's wonderful.
Well, I thank you so much. That's advice from the family Caesar. So
Yeah.
goodness
And
gracious,
never,
I appreciate
and
you.
never use anybody's suitcase for a toilet. I said that. I mean, that is.
I've used the Gatorade bottle. I've used the Gatorade bottle or two, but
Use a yeah.
you know how some of the locker rooms are.
I understand.
Well, thank you both so much. I think we'll wrap it up after that. Lanny, thank you very much for being on, and Nacho, you as well. I really enjoyed this. It was great.
Oh man, it was a wonderful time. You've been a fantastic host, and it's been a blessing and just another instance of string of luck to be on here with the legendary Poffo family. So,
And Nacho, look at this. Are you ready?
yeah.
You see who that is?
Oh my goodness.
That's
Is that
Emmett
Jerry
Kelly.
Lewis?
That's Emmett Kelly.
Emmett Kelly.
Emmett Kelly.
Reminds me of Jerry Lewis's beard that he would do. I gotta check that out.
That's Emmett Kelly. He was the greatest clown of all time.
I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna steal a few
You
tricks.
got quite a bit of
Always
homework,
stealing
yeah.
tricks. Oh yeah, I got a whole
And
list
remember,
over here.
Billy Gells was the little fox from Fox Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Chicago had a match in 1960, 61, can't remember, Buddy Rogers against Pat O'Connor.
Oh goodness, I'm gonna watch that.
You better watch that because that was as great as wrestling got in the early 60s.
It's wonderful watching old wrestling because as much as people like to say, you brought up the brothers earlier on and how things getting spotty. There's always been the spots around. There's always been some flying. There's always it's always been there. Even going all the way back to like Antonio Roca. Am I saying his name right? Even going all the way back there, they've always been jumping around 10 drop kicks and this and that. So it's always been there, and it's always good to watch the old matches. So I thank you.
And don't ever be one of those guys that sits on the couch criticizing.
Oh.
In other words, get in the ring and do it.
Oh, yeah.
And I would rather be criticized than being the one pointing the finger. Because they're gonna knock you anyway. Screw them.
Yeah.
Do you do your best? If the fans enjoy it, if you give them your money's worth, otherwise you're nothing but a pickpocket or a shoplifter. If you don't give them their money's worth, they paid their money. Give them a goddamn show.
Give them a fight. Give them a show.
Yes, sir.
Those are really wise words. Lanny, can we get one more limerick, you think? Are you good at thinking of them on the spot? Come on, yeah, let's hear it.
But here's something that I wrote for my daughter when she graduated high school in 2002.
Let's hear it.
I wanted to give her something that she could keep in her front pocket and always have. It's all the wisdom of the world wrapped up into one little poem. And it goes.
Wait. This is going to be a challenge. Wait, can you hold that? Nacho, do you want just get yours ready, okay? Get yours ready. All right, Lanny, go. Let's hear it.
No, let him do. Let his is sentimental. I'd rather him leave on a sentimental note. I appreciate you trying to involve it, but he's got a nice sentimental note to leave it on.
No,
so
you go ahead
the,
first. You go first.
He's calling
I didn't
you
have
out.
a poem for you. What's that? The Nacho Clown's in town. It's time to get down. I'm not going to challenge the master in his domain, sir. You go right ahead.
Okay. It goes, be humble when victorious. Be noble in defeat. Be there when your neighbor hasn't got enough to eat. Try to love your enemy and always be aware that World Cup or Super Bowl, the tortoise beats the hare.
That's a fantastic one. I love that. I love the ending. And you gave that to her when she graduated?
I made a Hallmark card in the computer, except it wasn't Hallmark. It was when you care enough to make it yourself. And she still has it. And words to live by, let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Very wise words. You're full of them. You really are.
Yes, I've been told I'm full of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you both again.
El gusto es mío. The pleasure was mine.
Woo, Message Daddy, Wooga Wooga man feel good. I tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss online. Rewind, recap, relive. Oh yeah.